Welcome to the Flowering Daydream podcast, where daydreams become reality. I'm Charlene, I'm your host, and today I want to talk about spring goddesses, and resourcing, spiritual resourcing. This is my absolute favorite time of the year, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where the cherry blossoms are blooming and fragrant, and just everything's coming out of the ground. And also, I just love this time of year in general. I'm an Aries and I love spring for the renewal, the creativity, the idea planting, the seed planting. I just love being in that energy and in that space as a really creative person who likes to continuously have new ideas and that refreshing energy. And especially after winter, that hibernating and slowing down. I'm like, yay, I can't wait to be active again. So I'm excited for spring. I want to talk really about how to connect to this energy to help empower and enliven and enrich your life spiritually, and to do that through spiritual resourcing, and specifically with goddesses of spring. So that this can be done with any time of year, any type of year, any type of practice or ritual. But specifically today, we're going to talk about doing this with the goddesses. And I think of spiritual resourcing as a way to be empowered, enriched, and nourished, and more of a relationship. So if you're new to this, I'm thinking about resourcing as not just like anchoring somewhere spiritually or believing in something, but more so cultivating a relationship, really having a back and forth or a rapport with whatever it is that you are spiritually resourcing with. And that can be through getting to know whatever it is that you're resourcing, through reading, through watching something, through practices, through altars, through journaling and meditation, through journeying, through invocation, through intentions. There's so many different ways that we can do this. And it's about what works for you and what you connect with and what helps you feel that way. And I think about it more as like a relationship in real life. It's the same thing, but we're doing this spiritually. And if you have support with friends or family or through your job, this is support on a spiritual level. This is finding that resourcing on that extra level. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's no wrong or right way. So today we're going to talk about a few of the goddesses of spring and how you might connect with them spiritually so that you can have that resourcing. So first we'll talk about Ostera, which is the goddess of spring and the equinox. And this is the Germanic goddess of dawn and fertility. And legend has it that once she found a bird dying from the cold of winter. And in compassion, she transformed the bird into a hare so that it could survive. But the hare retained the ability to lay eggs, and she offered it, which it offered to her as a gift of gratitude. So that's one of the roots of the modern Eastern bunny tradition. Ostera is celebrated during the spring equinox, a time of equal light and dark, symbolizing balance and new beginnings. And her energy brings hope, rebirth, and the gentle awakening of life after winter. So, what is a way that we could connect with Ostera? Well, we could do an invocation or an affirmation, and you can change this. It doesn't, you don't have to repeat it exactly, or you can, again, whatever works for you. But this would be one way. We could say something like, Ostera, bringer of light and renewal, awaken the seeds within me. May I rise with the dawn of this season, balanced in hope and harmony. Teach me to trust the return of life after darkness. I bloom in balance and I welcome renewal with an open heart. So that is one way to connect with that energy. And I want to talk about the different ways that we can connect, and there may be one that resonates with you or all. And this is just my opinion, but I think that we connect through an archetypal approach, which is just embodying the qualities. So when we think about Ostera and the qualities of spring and rising in darkness to the dawn. That is an archetypal way of embodying the qualities, and we can do that through creativity or through imagining those energies within ourselves, right? That's one way. The other way would be a mythological mirror. And this is more about like seeing your journey in a goddess's story. So somehow relating to the goddess and their experience and finding comfort or support or resilience or empowerment through the story of whatever goddess it is that we're talking about. So that's the second way. And then, in my opinion, the third way, the most fruitful way, is through direct connection. And that would be through ritual, through altars, through prayer work, through meditation or journeying. It's that tier that I think of that's more about building a relationship and cultivating a relationship rather than, um, just the archetypal energy or just the mythology around what you're working with. So, again, you're going to do what works with you, or if you already have beliefs and systems and practices, then you're going to incorporate this in a way that works for you. But those are the ways that I think about connecting spiritually or resourcing spiritually with this type of work. So the next goddess is Persephone, and this is the Greek goddess of spring and the underworld. Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of harvest, and one day Hades, the god of the underworld, abducted her to be his queen. In her grief, Demeter caused the earth to wither, bringing about winter. Eventually, a deal was struck, and Persephone would spend part of the year in the underworld and part above. Her ascent each spring marks the return of growth and abundance to the land. She's the goddess of duality, both the light and spring and the shadow of transformation, and her story is one of descent, sovereignty, and cyclical return to power. I've always found her really interesting. And as we're going through these goddesses, pay attention to how it resonates or what it brings up in you, or if you're noticing more of a call or a draw to one particular goddess or another. But I always kind of felt unsure about Persephone, and I didn't really like work with her. And it had to do with the duality, the underworld and the spring and the upper world, and shadow and light. And it was before I was able to understand that two things can exist at once at the same time, right? It's not either or avoiding the dark, that kind of a thing too. And so she's a great goddess to work with if you struggle with duality or you struggle with incorporating darkness with light and understanding both exist and both are part of balance. And so I really I like working with her for that. So that's Persephone. So how we might invoke that energy and connection with her would be something like this: Persephone, goddess of shadow and sunlight, guide me through my cycles. Help me honor both descent and return. Teach me to rise with power, rooted in all that I have become. I move through seasons of transformation with grace and strength. My growth is sacred. So that is Persephone. There's two more I want to talk about, and this is not like a finite list. This is just the ones that I selected for today. But this one is like my favorite. And it's because I love flowers so much and I love spring so much. But this is Flora, the Roman goddess of flowers and blooming. Flora is the Roman goddess of flowers, vegetation, and joyful growth. She's the personification of blooming life, and her festival, Floriala, I don't know if I'm saying that right, was celebrated at the end of April with dancing, colorful clothes, and offerings of flowers. Flora is less about complex myth and more about embodying aliveness, celebration, and sensual beauty. Her energy is pure delight, inviting us to live in full bloom and to be playful and expressive and to open like the flowers and the sun. I mean, who doesn't feel good when you're hearing that sentence? I just love that energy. So how we might invoke Flora is Flora, spirit of the blossoms, awaken my senses to joy. Let beauty bloom through me. May I dance with life, vibrant and free, in full color and expression. I give myself permission to bloom fully. Joy and beauty are my birthright. Let that sink in. So that might be one way that you cultivate and activate that energy of flora within yourself. And then the last goddess I want to talk about is Braint, the Welsh goddess of sovereignty and sacred flow. Braint is a lesser known Welsh goddess associated with blessings, sovereignty, water, and divine right. Though detailed myths of her are scarce, her name lives on in the River Braint on the Isle of Anglesey. Am I saying that right? Who knows? A sacred druid landscape. She's thought to be the guardian of ancestral power and sacred lineage, blessing leaders and aligning people with their spiritual authority. Her presence feels like a quiet, deep current flowing beneath the surface, carrying wisdom and ancestral grace. In spring, her waters rise, nourishing the land and reminding us of the sacred flow within us all. So, how we might call upon that energy or cultivate that goddess relationship would be an invocation or an affirmation, something like Braint, sacred river of blessing, flow through me, restore my sense of divine right and inner sovereignty. Let your waters guide me to stand in grace, aligned with my truth and ancestral power. I am a vessel of sacred flow, and I stand rooted in my truth, crowned in quiet power. So, those are the four that I wanted to talk about today. And really embodying those qualities, cultivating those qualities, seeking support and connecting, to those goddesses to help further develop that within yourself for the season of spring or any time of the year. So maybe you'll build a spring altar. Maybe you'll read something, watch something. Maybe you'll just think about this as you move through spring. However, it affects you or calls to you, just allow that to take root and blossom the rest of spring. Before we go, I want to share a collective reading with you from this deck that I absolutely love, this Oracle deck. It is the Goddess Within Oracle by Christabel Jessica. I like this deck because it has goddesses from all around the world. And we're going to do a collective reading today, which means there's a message for everyone in a collective reading. And that means that whatever is said is just universal. It's not just specific, right? But if you happen to find this episode or you're listening, obviously, then it is definitely meant for you. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So first in the 3-card reading that I pulled for the collective, we have Hina, who is the Hawaiian lunar goddess. And her message is to examine the moon's current phase and reflect on its effect in your life, as you are also cyclic by nature. And what I love about this is the moon controls the tides, the water. We are 70% water or whatever. And so when the moon is going through its phases, the water is inside of us being affected. So when we feel, oh, that's my dog. That's my dog saying hello. He's confirming this message for you all. So when these phases are happening within the moon or in the lunar cycles, it is affecting us. It is bringing up energies that align with that cycle, whether you realize it or not. And that's why doing ritual or having your practices associate to the cycles, whether it's the seasons of the time of the year or whether it's the lunar cycles, can amplify, whatever it is that you are attempting to do. So I love her message, but it's really about connecting to your environment. You know, that's what all of our ancestors did. They had no other choice. They had to pay attention to the seasons and the sun and the moon and just everything because it was the only way to survive. You know, now we're all inside houses, all, you know, blocked from being in relationship with our environment. So her message is really about connecting to that, connecting to the outer environment and how that relates to your inner environment. And then we have Muso Koroni, who, according to the origin story of the Bambara of Africa, she is the first woman to have ever been created. And her message is to sit with the discomfort of feeling alone. Being human can be incredibly difficult, and learning to apply the salve of love to the primal wound of separation is paramount. So she's just got this lovely, beautiful message about self-love and about nourishing yourself and self-care and having it be okay that you have feelings and just taking really good care of yourself. Okay, so that is her message. And then the last one that we have is Sedna, who is the sea goddess, the mother of all marine life. You are acknowledged in your despair and pain and are reminded that even though it may not feel authentic, a new dawn will break. So even when you're drowning in the deep ocean of despair and feel like you will never be able to break the surface for a breath of air, you do not have to go through this alone. She is recommending that you find professionals or loved ones that can help hold space to help you break the surface. And she too is also here for spiritual support. And so that's what I mean by spiritual resourcing is working with these energies, whether it's archetypal, mythological, or real to you, is working with these energies to help empower your foundation, to help keep that foundation strong and resilient and courageous and full of love and feeling spiritually nourished so that no matter what is going on in your outer environment, that's your inner environment. That's always going to be your anchor. And that's why I think developing that spiritual nourishment and anchor is so important and resourcing it. So that is today's episode for you on spring goddesses, and spiritual nourishment. I hope that you get a chance to enjoy spring, plant some seeds of intention, clear out. It's a great time to clear stuff out of your house, get rid of things you don't use, open the windows, bring some flowers in, work with some goddesses, and just take a moment to feel nourished by spring. This is Charlene, the Flowering Daydream podcast, where daydreams become reality. Thank you so much for listening and joining. And until we meet again.